Chris Luxon sets an amazing example for others to follow, by steadfastly declining a major living allowance perk. Many MPs rent back their own homes at the Kiwi taxpayers' expense, and they are claiming up to $45,000 a year allowance to stay in their own Wellington City homes. A perk that sees the hard-working taxpayer help politicians pay off their mortgages. For example, consider the recently ejected coalition of Chaos MPs. At least 9 failed New Zealand Labour Party ministers: Duncan Webb, Jantinetti, Deborah Russell, Willie Jackson, Arena Williams, Jenny Salesa, Jamie Strange, and Sarah Pallett. All of them claimed huge allowances to cover their living costs in Wellington City. They then use the allowance to pay rent on property they already own. And, how often do you hear the whinging Willie Jackson ranting and raving about caring for Maori? He clearly cares for himself, along with most of the other failed MPs. Then, along comes a new efficient coalition government, and immediately Christopher Luxon, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, sets an example for the country to follow. Listen to what Chris Luxon has to say about receiving living allowance perks. Thank you, Chris Luxon. Geraint, on behalf of WhangareiTim.
I'm going to repay the entitlement that I've just received this week, actually, since becoming Prime Minister. I'm not interested in that. I'll actually not take the entitlement going forward, and I'll actually pay it back since I became Prime Minister. The allowance only came into my bank account this week, actually. $13,000 that has been paid into my bank account. Since I've become Prime Minister, they paid it out. So I will reimburse it back. So I'll happily fund my own living costs. Ultimately, my intention is I would love to live in Premier House, but I can't because we've got these renovation and repairs and maintenance issues we've got to work through. We're trying to find a way to avoid spending millions and millions of dollars on Premier House, which is what is needed to be spent there, in order for us to get it in a place where I think future Prime Ministers should live there, and I also personally would love to see it being Grand Central Station and being used every day, and it hasn't been. The house has got long-standing repairs and maintenance issues, and we're trying to fight. We had a report done independently under the previous Prime Minister, Chris Luxon. It suggests there's a lot of investment needed in Government House. It's a 160-year-old house. Obviously, it's very difficult for us to think about how we spend that money, but frankly, we're trying to find a way to work our way through that, and I would ideally love to live in Premier House. It would be great.